Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I am here at Table Rock Lake, the middle of August, and we have a major mayfly hatch going on. Hopefully you can see them flying around. You gotta recognize that the mayfly should not have been named the mayfly because they hatch all summer long, and it's something that people don't take advantage of enough. When you find that there's a mayfly hatch going on, that's generally gonna be a good time to take advantage of a shallow water bite. You know, I got here, I was spending some time offshore and I was not having a ton of luck. So I headed over to this, steep channel swing bank, and what I found was I was being attacked by mayflies. There was a major hatch over the last couple days. So I instantly said, I got to take advantage of this. There were fish busting on the shoreline. There was a ton of bluegill activity. There was a lot of bass activity. There was also a lot of bait up here. And these fish will take advantage of this mayfly hatch. So the next time you head out to the water, don't think that because it's August or some other time other than May, because honestly, mayflies don't normally hatch in May. The biggest hatches are generally June, July, and August. And when you see that going on, you might have to adjust what you were expecting to do that day on the water. For instance, I thought I would be offshore. I've actually found a really good topwater bite. We have 92-degree water temperature here, but there's a lot of fish up shallow, and a lot of that has to do with the hatch that's going on. So I want to address a couple of things. The first thing is, not only do mayflies create good topwater bite, but there's a lot of fish activity that's going on under the water. Those mayflies are hatching in the bottom sediment of the lake. Once they come out, they float to the surface. That's where they get their wings. And then at that point they fly away. So you see a lot of surface activity. There's a lot of bluegills that are popping along here. I mean, there was one right there that just came up. And that's one of the prime times for them to feed on the mayflies, which is when they're on the surface starting to get their wings spread out so that they can take off. But really, a lot of the feeding is taking place when those larvae are hatching and floating to the surface. So those fish are eating a lot of those as they're actually coming to the surface. So it's not only a topwater bite, but here are the couple of things that I really like to throw anytime I've got a mayfly hatch going on. Like I said, topwaters are definitely a major player. Here's one of the mayflies on my rod. Hopefully you can see them. They got really long tails here. Nice little morsel. We'll put him over here. So topwaters are definitely key because, like I said, when they're on the surface, it's a prime time for the fish to eat them. They're easy for them to find. I like to go with smaller topwaters generally. A Chapo style bait like this. This is the 105 size. I also really like to throw the 90 size, which is the one size smaller. But I like to keep the colors in black because of the fact that when those larvae are coming to the surface, they're generally a very dark color. They could be like a dark a green pumpkin color. They can be a brown color. They can even be a black color. So I like to keep a consistent theme on that. So I like to have a dark colored bait. So that's one thing I definitely like to throw. I also really like to throw a topwater popper like this guy. A popper is a great bait for a couple of reasons. One, it does a really good job of creating a surface, a bait that's floating on the surface that the fish can key in on, thinking that it's a mayfly. But more importantly to me, the great thing about a popper is this looks more like a bluegill floating on the surface. If you get a nice feather tail on it, it looks like a bluegill that's feeding on those mayflies. And a lot of times that's what those bass are going to take advantage of, and they're going to eat the bluegills that are feeding on the mayfly. So that's something you want to keep in mind. You're not necessarily trying to mimic the mayfly. You're trying to mimic the other species that are coming in, feeding on those mayfly, and then creating forage for the larger species like the bass that we're targeting. Now, like I said, a lot of times those mayfly larvae are actually what the fish are eating as well. So one of the things I really like to do for them is to use a small plastic bait, but a drop shot can be a very, very good bait. So something like the small Berkeley flatworm, the Maxent flatworm, as well as something like your typical Ned worms, like this little General by Berkeley. These are two baits that I really like to put on a drop shot because I like to have my bait suspending a little bit off the bottom. when those mayfly larvae are hatching in the mud and start rising to the surface, if you have a smaller profile bait that somewhat resembles those mayfly larvae that are suspended in the water, it creates a really easy target for the fish. So if I'm fishing around a mayfly hatch, generally speaking, my best baits are going to be smaller topwater type baits that are mimicking not only the larvae that are turning into mayflies on the surface, but also the bluegill that are feeding on them. Or I'm going to go with a drop shot with a small plastic bait that's suspending in the water because those fish are swimming around looking for those mayfly larvae that are rising to the surface. It can create some very difficult fishing situations because there are so many mayfly that the fish are gorging themselves on it. But if you match the hatch and try to really replicate that mayfly, you can still catch the fish, and at the same time, generally speaking, a large percentage of the bass population is going to be shallow and very accessible because they're feeding on the mayfly as well as the bluegill that are feeding on the mayfly. So you can use it to your advantage. Like I said, we're in the middle of summer, the dog days of summer right now, when fishing generally is very difficult. So when I find a mayfly hatch like this that is somewhat localized, it's not going on all over. This is a specific creek that I've seen it in. I have not seen it in any sort of numbers like it is here anywhere else. So because of that, the fish activity in this creek has been really good. We've caught a lot of fish, seen a lot of fish, and it's been a fun day of fishing because of the mayflies. So use it to your advantage, guys. Don't think that since there's a mayfly hatch going on, or the fact that you've got the dog days of summer, that there won't be a mayfly hatch or some sort of larvae hatch going on, because those are the things that can really turn a bad day of fishing into a good one. Use some of these baits and it will help you catch a few more fish if you run into the same conditions that I have. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate all of you that watch on a continuous basis. If you're looking for more content from me, stay tuned. We'll have another one tomorrow. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I gotta go catch some more fish. Thanks for tuning in.